Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Chapter 25. We are on Part 3 of the male reproductive system. Last time we talked about spermatogenesis and how it happened. We talked about how the secondary sexual characteristics formed with all of the hormones, and that's when spermatogenesis begins, also known as puberty. Okay, we are now going to start following the sperm on their pathway from the seminiferous tubules, because remember the seminiferous tubules right through here that are filling up the testis are where the sperm are created. Now, what you need to remember is that the sperm themselves do not have any ability to move at this point. The sperm do not move on their own until they are actually removed from the male's body. Slight bit of trivia that a fully functional adult male will make approximately 1,500 sperm per second. Okay, so there is no shortage. And we'll talk about why they have some difficulties in the future. Okay, so seminiferous tubules, remember, is a rather long pathway. It's about 2 feet in length from where the sperm are made until they get to the area right in here that is leading to the epididymis. Remember the epididymis, it just means on the twin. So the twin would be the testis and the epididymis sits on it. Okay, now taking a closer look at the testis and epididymis. We've seen this picture before. Okay, you have the seminiferous tubules. Like I said, they're about 2 feet long. That's actually where spermatogenesis begins. They go through this area, which is the retitestes. That just means net of the testis. And then they're going to enter into the epididymis, which is sitting right on here. Okay, so the sperm will enter into this area. Now, the epididymis, you have this part on top. You then have which is the duct work. It comes down, around, and then back up to what's called the ductus deferens, or more commonly called the vas deferens. Okay? Now, the way that this happens when the sperm cannot travel themselves, there are what are called stereocilia, just like it sounds, like stereo, like a record player. And they actually absorb the fluid that's made. A lot of fluid is made through here to kind of float the sperm. And in the ducts of the epididymis, those stereocilia absorb the fluid. And what happens is it dries it out. So what happens is the fluids keep flowing in that direction. It creates a current because here over in the testis, the fluids are produced. Over here in the epididymis, they're reduced. So it creates this constant flow, which is actually what carries the sperm. Now, the main function of the epididymis is that this is where the sperm are going to finish maturing, and they will be stored in the epididymis unless they're actually used. Now, it may not seem like that far. However, first off, it has to go 2 feet just to get through the seminiferous tubules, and then it has about 20 feet to go through the duct of the epididymis. Okay, to give you an idea of how long that takes, it takes about 2 weeks for sperm to travel that distance, just using the process of the stereocilia absorbing the fluids to create that current. Now, if the sperm are not used, all that happens is the sperm are broken down and the nutrients and molecules and things that make up the sperm are reabsorbed into the body, and then the molecules and things will be recycled. Okay? The body is very efficient for anything that is generally not used, and in fact, even for things that are used. So, like we talked before about the old blood cells getting filtered out, they got broken down and recycled, just like these cells would get broken down and recycled. Now, as it comes around and up, it now will stay in this spot until they are used. Okay, now going on to the next image, you have to remember this is from the side. Epididymis is right here, and you can see it comes up, down, and then back up. So you have the testis, which is here, where the seminiferous tubules are, the epididymis on top of it, and then if ejaculation happens, which is when the sperm is released, only then will it continue in its travels. Like I said, otherwise it's broken down and the cells are just recycled. Okay, now during ejaculation, this tissue right here that you can see on the penis is called the corpora cavernosa. In other words, corpora, the body or the organ, cavernosa, you think of caverns, you think of spaces. That is what the tissue is like. It has a lot of spaces. And in the process of arousal, the cavernosa will fill with blood, and that's what will cause an erection. The rest of the penis is corpora spongiosum, and like you would imagine from the name, it is the body or the organ that is soft and spongy. Okay? Now, if ejaculation happens, it will then come up and start going through the vas deferens. Now, it travels through this vas deferens. You can see it goes up and around. It travels by the process of smooth muscle contractions, which you should know the name of. Okay, peristalsis, if you remember. Okay, so the sperm are still not traveling on their own. The peristalsis is pushing the sperm through the vas deferens. Remember, there is one on each side of the bladder. Okay, and you can see the bladder right here. So everything that you're seeing is duplicated still. There's one on the other side. It goes by the pelvis bone, up past the bladder, and then it comes to what is called the ampulla. Really, the ampulla is just a widening area of the vas deferens because it slows down the movement of the sperm for a little bit. Because what is going to happen there is that the seminal vesicle, this right here, is going to have a job. Okay, we will talk about probably the rest of the pathway, or at least most of it, next time. Until then, have a good night.